One thing about a lot of marketing classes is they don't spend much time talking about data. It's actually important. So between this lecture and the next lecture, Dr. Cho is going to go over some data techniques. And one of the most important data techniques is design of experiments as well as conjoint analysis. And that's it. I've got all this data and I've got all these attributes and variables. But how do I know what's important and what's not important? And so uh, when they say, do a test, get data, what is it they're actually meaning? And so these are the topics we'll be talking about today. And it pretty much comes down to is what's important, and that's what conjoint is. Now, the thing about conjoint, it's done by computers. When Dr. Cho was working in marketing, I actually made my own spreadsheets. I actually had to do it by hand. But whether it's in Google Analytics or whatever, they do it for you. The only thing I'm doing here is showing you what the ideas behind it are. And so you know how to go about applying it. This is the problem about customers. They want everything and they don't want to pay for it. So how do I figure out how much I can actually get them, how much I can get them to pay? Not only that, how do I figure out what's really important and what they say is important? For example, one of the most famous conjoint cases was the Marriott hotels. And that's the Marriott made their Courtyard hotel specifically for business travelers. The point is, when you ask people what's important to you, do you want a pool? Yeah, I want a pool. Do you want a big desk? Yeah, I want a big desk. Do you want comfortable mattresses? Yeah, I want comfortable mattresses. Do you want big rooms? Yes, I want big rooms. Do you want $1 million? Yeah, I want $1 million. And then you ask them, okay, how much would you pay for this? Oh, I thought you were just giving it to me for nothing. And so that's the hard thing. The thing about new products is the reported rate is that they fail about 90% of the time. However, other studies contradicted it and say new products only fail 30 to 40% of the time. The problem with these older studies, if you read through them, what you find out is that all these papers were written before 1990. And so the thing is, they analyzed older industries. So between the two is probably where reality lies, but the point is that new products fail pretty readily. And the thing is, this is where market data becomes so important. That gives you a better chance of being successful. The thing about market research, it has to be objective, meaning you can have no biases associated with it. And it has to be systematic, meaning you have to use the same process every time. If you use a different process every time, then the problem is that your data isn't consistent because you change something. So how can you're creating apples and oranges? This is the basic approach to how you get data. You can interview people, you can look at reports, you can generate your own data through surveys, or you can use innovative techniques, which is using digital data or digital fact-finding. The thing is, the best approach for a new product for you to use, and again, this is Dr. Cho's opinion, there are a lot of marketers who use different approaches. But what I've seen that works best is when you have a new product, start out with interviewing people. Why? Interviewing people are free-flowing. You don't know what all the issues are. But once you start talking to people, things come out. And not only that, the conversation can go in directions that you never thought they were. And so also look at what data already exists out there. So go do some mining. But that gives you a good solid foundation where now you can make intelligent surveys. Quite frankly, most surveys are crap. I mean, I'm really astounded they come out. They pretty much amount to, will you buy my product? Modeling will tell you what the data means. And what it comes down to is now you need feedback loops. And So once they fill it out, what is your next survey going to do? You have to grow and improve. Traditionally, we think of data coming from surveys. The thing is, surveys are limited. Like, do customers really tell you what they feel or do, or are they just momentary reactions? For example, they talk about the amount of noise in the surveys for Donald Trump. Would it have been better for a survey is to take the values distinctly Trump, like America First, border security, or whatever, and then take the values of Hillary Clinton, like women equality and pay, things like that. And then if you put those values out and ask people to order them or how much they value them, all of a sudden you can kind of guess which candidate people are going to vote for. And that might have been a better way because Trump had such negative branding that people didn't want to admit that they actually did vote for him. Are you talking to the right people? And the thing is, surveys have come under fire saying they're outdated and all. However, that's a traditional survey of handing out pieces of paper. Now with digital surveys, it makes traditional techniques more feasible because now you don't have to do all this legwork. You don't have to go out and get 100 people. And plus you can get personalization. A big part of a survey is, are you talking to the right people? And right now, the future of marketing is in prediction. And so based on web traffic and customer behavior, they have algorithms that can predict what you're going to do. The thing is, at the end, when you get data, take a step back and do a sanity test. Meaning look at it and say, does this make sense? For example, this is a great statistics story. I believe it was in Sweden. They found out that the number of babies being born correlated exactly with the stork population, that they went up together. And so statistically, you would draw the conclusion the storks were bringing babies. No. What the data adds, the causality and data are two different things. And the people who can figure out causality, what story is the data telling me, are the ones who are most powerful. And the causality in this case was because so many babies were being born, a lot of these Swedish people were building barns in extra capacity. And in these barns, the storks would come and settle up in the rafters. That's what happened. And subsequently, it's about richness and reach. And so you have to decide how you're going to balance that. Do you need interviews more with richness, or do you need to reach a lot of people? Here are the issues that you're interested in. What is it that I'm going to find? How do I get the information, and what does it mean? So it's about design, execution, and analysis. You need product marketing on everything. The thing is, do I do it myself, or do I do traditional techniques like focus groups and get my answers? And a lot depends on how much money do you have. Big companies can get away with some of these things. You can't. One of the great market research cases was New Coke. This is probably way before your time. I actually like New Coke, and the reason why is you have Coke and Pepsi, and New Coke was somewhere in the middle, and I like both beverages. But anyway, Coke actually had been losing market share for 15 straight years, so they panicked and they decided the baby boomers were coming of age, and the brand awareness was low. So they tested 200,000 people. Can you imagine that? And all 200,000, well, not all, but most of the 200,000 people say they like the new Coke better than the old Coke. And so what happened? The product flopped, and Coke got hammered by complaints. And so they tried to market both of them with classic Coke and new Coke. And what happened is they actually a black market started. People started collecting the old Coke and selling it for inflated prices. And within 4 months, the original Coke was back on the shelves, and they slowly phased out new Coke. And the big mistakes they made is, first of all, they severely underestimated the brand loyalty to the old product. And that's food habits are difficult to break. I mean, look at candy bars. The Hershey's bar is still around. The Almond Joy is still around. And that's the when people connect to food, they'll continue to buy it. And guess what? You pass that down onto your kids. And so that's why you have generations. That's why the Hershey's is over 100 years old. But on the bright side of all this is it created so much controversy and all, it reinvigorated the brand. All of a sudden people became interested in Coke again. Iridium. This was a monstrous marketing research, and that's like that. All these people wanted cell phones, and so they put up these low-orbiting satellites. Motorola ultimately took a $5 billion loss on it. The big strategic mistakes they made is they underestimated the competition. They thought, oh, it's a lot easier to put up a satellite than these thousands of cell phone towers. They were dead wrong. It's not that hard to put up a cell phone tower. They did analysis of pricing and found out people don't want to pay $3,000 for a headset, and they don't want to pay $5 a minute. And then they said you can get a call from anywhere, and as it turns out, they had line of sight issues. One of the big mistakes of Coke is when they did their research, they based it all on, do you like the new one more than the old one? But they never got around to asking the basic question, do you want a new cola? And so the thing is, what design of experiments is about is that you have variables that determine an outcome of something. Which of those are important and which of those are not important? For example, I'm making a cake. I'm putting flour, sugar, eggs. So if I'm basing this on taste, then based on different mixtures, I can find out, well, gee, in terms of taste, they're not that sensitive to how many eggs you put into it. Or sugar is probably the biggest driver of it. And so you figure out which variables have big impacts and which have small ones. If you need insight into values, essentially, again, which values are more important, but by how much. And not only that, but what's significant and what's just random. It also tells you what groups are going to buy in. So in the next lecture, we'll be talking about how we design experiments.